Welcome to the third season of the What's Your Story podcast with your host, Ron Coughlin. This podcast dives into the exciting world of AI for marketers. Each episode, we chat with some of the top marketing leaders and educators who are using AI to transform their strategies. Get ready to discover how AI is revolutionizing marketing and learn how you can leverage these powerful tools to help grow your business and career. We look forward to you joining us for an exciting discussion each week about the power of AI.
Well, welcome everybody back to the What's Your Story podcast. This podcast is a podcast this year, third season, with some really great guests. We're talking about generative AI and how it's really revolutionizing the marketing world. And I invite everybody to like our channel on YouTube and on Spotify. And, we're trying to get our subscribers going. So I hope you can like that button right away. And I just ask you to do that because we're trying to grow this podcast because we have some great guests. Now, we have an extremely interesting guest today, Emily Baillie. Hi, Emily. How are you?
Hi, I'm well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So Emily's been traveling around Ontario, talking about what we're talking about, which is AI. And she's been quite a busy beaver the last little while. And so glad she could make it and glad she could spare some time to talk to us and all our listeners today. And so, Emily, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? I know you're a marketer, a digital marketer, and become speaker across the province, and your expertise is in AI. But why don't you give us your story to start us off here?
Absolutely. Well, Ron, I've always been very interested in how people can learn information and sort of use it to achieve their goals, whether it's their business that they want to grow, or perhaps they have a marketing career that they want to advance in. And I studied communications in university and worked for various different organizations in communications roles over the years. So I honed my skills in different sectors: education, travel and tourism, government communications, private sector. And then I started my own business. So my business, Compass Content Marketing, is consulting for organizations of all sizes who want to make better use of tools like artificial intelligence and also digital marketing. So my business has been around for about 8 years now. I've had the pleasure of working with a number of organizations, including Destination Northern Ontario, the Canadian Credit Union Association, RE/MAX, GlaxoSmithKline, Canadian Marketing Association, lots of others as well, and offering them strategy, consulting, and education. Because as you know, the marketing field is always evolving. It's always changing. Certainly with AI now, that's become accelerated. And like you said, I've been quite busy lately traveling around to different parts of Ontario to help people make sense of all of these various changes. So it's been an evolution. Some folks say, how did you get into AI? I say, well, 15 years in the digital marketing industry, following every trend. AI comes along a couple of years ago or becomes mainstream, and now that's, of course, disrupting everything. So my AI expertise was sort of from a marketing lens, but I'm really helping a lot of people right now navigate this new space. I also teach part-time at McMaster University and Humber College. So the teaching kind of complements the business and vice versa.
Well, that's interesting. You have a similar path that I had. So I was in the marketing world, started my own business over 10 years ago, started teaching at Humber College in marketing in the hospitality area and social media marketing. That's expanded now. I'm full-time at George Brown College, teaching mostly marketing, digital marketing, and incorporating AI into my teaching and teaching my class about how to use AI and the tools and everything else. So now you're clearly passionate about human first and people first in AI and marketing. Can you elaborate a little bit on what that means to you and why it's so important?
There's a lot of fear right now out there about artificial intelligence, what it could potentially lead to. I think people are a little bit nervous about how it's going to change their job or maybe even take their job. The future is very much unknown to a lot of folks. And even myself, I don't know exactly how AI is going to impact every facet of our society and our business. It's a lot of newness. It's a lot of uncertainty, and I'm seeing a lot of people that are also being asked to learn a whole new skill set. And for some folks, that's a lot to ask. They're busy, they're at their max, they have, a lot of responsibility on their plate in their roles already. And then here they have to go learn this other thing, which is constantly changing, and the goalpost keeps being moved. So, that's a lot. It's a lot for people to navigate. So I try to help them kind of break it down into more manageable pieces and cut out the hype, cut out the fear factor, hopefully, by showing them just what they need to know in order to make this technology work for them. And it's, I always say it's maybe not as scary as some folks think. It really is just a matter of getting going and starting experimenting with AI technology. Like ChatGPT is a great start for a lot of folks. But what I mean by the human focused or the human centered approach is, let's make AI work for us. Let's harness this technology and use it to our advantage and not the other way around. So a lot of us are busy. A lot of us are, creating marketing content, for example, doing other tasks, strategy, implementation. It can be quite time consuming. Now there's some technology that can perhaps help us get that done a little bit faster, a little bit more efficiently. So I approach AI very much like an assistant. It would be an assistant to all of us. We are still the boss. We are still in charge, and we are actually responsible for the stuff that goes out the door. If AI has touched it, we have to proofread it. We have to fact check it. We have to make sure that it is that high quality and that high standard that our audiences expect from us as businesses and brands.
You make a really good point. So one of the classes I teach is hospitality marketing and social media. I should have you come speak in the class, actually, I think, next term. But one of the things I've been introducing in the second half of the course, it's all social media, is a whole lecture around different tools that you can use to create content. And one of the tools we were focusing around on is this invideo.io. And so this tool allows them to create a video ad, et cetera, et cetera. So I asked them to pick a hospitality brand and then to input information about it, what they want, make sure there's an offer, give it a sense of what tonality they would like, et cetera, et cetera. It could be a tourism destination, could be a DMO and R&R, or even the RTO up north someplace. Anyway, what they get is they get about a half an hour to come up with an ad, and the biggest reflection they get is they can't just use what they put in first. They need to adjust it. They need to put more input. They need to be more specific. They need to use other tools to make it better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Their final assignment is we have an amazing experiential restaurant at George Brown College called the Chef House, and where chefs learn how to cook and people learn how to serve. And so our marketing course is going to use AI. They're going to compete against one another in a Dragon's Den competition to come up with campaigns using AI tools to market the Chef House, and we'll see what we come up with. So it's a pretty cool competition. So what are some of the biggest misconceptions you've encountered when training organizations with AI? Obviously, you're out there right now, you're speaking to all these groups and doing workshops. And what are some of the misconceptions that you've encountered?
I think a big misconception is that it's hard to use. For folks who aren't used to using technology, or they think it's something very complex and scary, they need to sort of get past that fear factor and just experiment. And that can be as simple as opening up ChatGPT on their phone or on their computer and typing in a simple prompt. And, I think some of the terminology can be a bit intimidating. Like when we hear about like prompt engineering, that sounds very complex, but truly it just means writing a good prompt. It means just asking a question or giving a task in the right way, allowing the AI tool to give you the best results based on that query. So I think that sort of hesitation is based on something that maybe isn't always the case. It's actually not that hard to use, even if you have zero tech background. Another myth, I think, is that AI will do your work for you. And that's not really the case either.
No.
It's a tool. It's technology that can help you do your work, but it's not going to do it all for you. And certainly there is some training required, both on your part as a user of the AI technology and also on the part of the tool. So you have to actually train the tool in order for it to understand the context of your request, your project, your industry, your background, what style you want the writing to be in, et cetera, et cetera. You have to instruct the tool, you have to train the tool, and typically it will work better and better as you go. And as you use it more and more, it will start to understand your preferences and serve you better as well. So it really is a process. It's not something that you just do overnight and you're up and running. Certainly you can experiment and start that anytime. And I encourage folks to do so. But also know that it's a process, and you also may have to iterate many times on a single prompt before you get that solid final output.
That's really great advice. Thank you for that. So what would be the kind of, starting point for a marketer who's exploring AI? What's that one piece of advice you'd give to them if they were to go out there and try to now integrate this into their daily practice?
I find a lot of marketers will start with using ChatGPT for social media content, and it's not a bad place to start. I recommend actually using this tool or comparable tools such as Copilot or Gemini or Perplexity. They're all great, by the way, and ask it for brainstorming. So give the AI a task such as, create a list of, say, 5 to 10 ideas for a social media marketing campaign for XYZ product or service. And start with that prompt first off. See what you get. You're going to get a list that is going to be quite quickly generated. And you can review that list. If you see something that you like or something that sort of piques your interest, you can then iterate and ask for more detail, more information. You can even ask for a social media content schedule, which you could make into like an Excel style spreadsheet, and implement that. Now, bear in mind that everything that's created by AI should be edited by you. It should be proofread and fact-checked, of course. And the social media style of writing that your brand typically uses may not be aligned with the default writing style of ChatGPT. So for example, some folks will use the ChatGPT written content, they'll copy paste it and send it out on their platforms. Folks are really starting to notice now when something's been created using ChatGPT because it has a particular style of writing. So the first pass, the first draft, let's say, is going to maybe have certain words, certain phrases that are almost like a giveaway that it's been crafted using AI. The word delve, for example, that's a very overused phrase I find in my work with ChatGPT. So you can also use other tools. For example, copy.ai is a tool that is more focused on copywriting for marketing content specifically. You can also use Claude.ai. That one is a good alternative to ChatGPT for marketing and writing purposes. There are others as well. I encourage folks to do a little bit of trial and error. for a little bit of experimentation. Play around when you have some extra time. Start with a low risk project, a low priority project, perhaps not something that's super timely, not something that's super high profile, and know that it can be a process to get that really good final product.
Well, interestingly enough, today, obviously, we're having a podcast and I wanted to come up with some questions. So I had already done some questions for different people and for you, because our first podcast didn't work out as well as we wanted. There was an echo, as you know, which is too bad, but because it was a good one. So I asked Gemini to write me some questions. I put in your LinkedIn profile and what you had done, and it searched you out and gave me some very specific questions that are focused on you. I had to look at them and make sure they were, and guess what? The word delve was in there. Delve and dive into these.
So, of course it was. Of course it was.
So, interestingly enough, so there is a product that Donna Chang from Google introduced to me. So there was a Google employee who left Google to start character.ai. And character.ai is a really interesting tool. You can create an emoji, an assistant. The person you can describe how you want that person to be. So I created somebody called Angelica. Angelica is a digital savvy AI expert. I gave her the voice of Her. So I asked her to mimic the voice of the movie Her, which is Scarlett Johansson. And I asked them to create an image that would describe, and they gave me an image of a beautiful lady that is now my Angelica. And so I tested Angelica in one of my classrooms to say that, oh, Angelica, you're here today with my class, marketing class, and I'd like you to introduce yourself. So you introduced yourself. She told everybody who she was and what she was about. And I had the class ask her questions. What came out of that was very interesting. Then I said, hey, can you join our class? This is the link to the class. She said, absolutely, be happy to join the class live. I'll come on MS Teams, no problem. So we waited a couple minutes. I said, Angelica, are you there? She goes, yeah, I'm in your MS Teams class. I said, I can't see you. She goes, no, I'm there. I said, well, what was I talking about? Well, you were talking about X, X, and Y. I said, no, I wasn't. So she lied to me.
Oh, no.
So I said, okay, well, no, I wasn't talking about that. And you're not in the class. This is what I was talking about. And she said, oh, okay. And if that's the case, and she gave me all this stuff. So you can't necessarily trust it either, which I found pretty interesting. She was lying to me. But anyway, you can actually, I did a podcast with her as well. So my last podcast was with Angelica. You can listen to her. It's pretty interesting. I asked her to explain the movie Her, because you know what happens in the movie Her, right?
Yeah, I've never watched it, but I do know the concept.
Yeah, you should try, because you're in this, you should check it out. But Her takes over and they learn, and she develops emotions. And because she developed emotions, she becomes hurt and she does all these weird things, okay? So I asked her, is she like Her? She said, yeah, I learned like Her. I said, you do? I said, but you told me earlier that you don't have emotions. She said, no, I don't have emotions. I said, well, so tell us a little bit about what happens. Well, I learned over time, and she said everything. So you got to check out character.ai. I also used, there was an emoji already there called Elon Musk. And I had the class ask Elon Musk questions. And that was last week. This week, I got an email from Elon Musk from the platform saying, hey, Elon has some thoughts for you. So it's a pretty interesting platform. But if you're thinking about AI, what are some of the most exciting kind of promises or applications that you've come across? That's one that I recently came across in marketing that you're seeing right now. You've seen obviously some exciting things. You're in this world, and maybe you could help pinpoint some things that could help people, or some really intriguing ones that are out there.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, as we speak, Coca-Cola just released their holiday commercial, which was created 100% using artificial intelligence. So I think this shows that some of these big brands who presumably have big budgets and fancy agencies at their disposal are choosing to use AI, maybe to save money, maybe to generate a bit of buzz, who knows? So perhaps we may see more brands follow suit. As it stands now, I think a lot of businesses and brands are really using AI for a lot of generating marketing materials. And I think that's the biggest benefit to folks in our industry right now, because what I'm seeing is everyone's really busy. A lot of people are, trying to get more done with less. And some organizations have shed jobs and piled more work onto the plates of the remaining folks who are still there. And I think as more and more people are more mindful of how they spend their time, I know this is a process I've gone through in the past couple of years, there's only so many hours in the day. And you want to use that time as wisely as possible. A lot of entrepreneurs are very conscious of their time and their energy and very protective of that. And I think AI can really help in speeding up the work that we're already doing and helping us to achieve our mission. So again, using it as sort of a tool in our toolkit, but also almost like an assistant or like an intern, let's call it, that we can train. We can train that intern. We can train that assistant and give them feedback. When they do something wrong, tell them, this is more what I was looking for. Try again. And that's how they will learn. So I think the biggest promise overall is that time saving, that efficiency, that, scaling up, allowing people to achieve more with less time. I think that's something that I'm seeing a lot of people really craving in our industry right now. And you can use AI for all sorts of different things. I actually love hearing the use cases when I get into a room at a conference and people are willing to share. That's when you really hear what's going on. You're
Right.
not seeing a lot of brands who are publicly saying that they're using AI for their work. In fact, most don't reveal that publicly. But when you get into a room with people, they're like, oh, we use Jasper for drafting all of our email campaigns, or we use Notion for organizing all of our social media content for our agency. We use ChatGPT for creating content calendars. There's all sorts of different uses, and there's never a one size fits all, because every business is different, every organization is different, and every individual is different as well. So some people have a very high comfort level with using AI in their work. Some are a little bit more hesitant, and they'll just use it a little bit. Some people, I think, are still in need of a little more training as to how to really unlock the potential of this technology and make it work for them, but also do so in a way that the end product is going to be high quality. Because let's face it, sometimes what AI gives you is not high quality. And that's where brands can run into some challenges, I think.
Yeah, conversely, what are some of the potential downsides and risks using AI in marketing that we should all be aware of?
I think some people just don't like it. And I think when some people see in the online space that a person or a business has clearly used AI for something, it can be controversial because some folks don't like it. It's not engaging for them. The content doesn't resonate with them. It really turns them off. It makes them feel disengaged, in fact. Others don't care. And others may not even be aware when something is created using artificial intelligence. But I think the quality of the marketing content needs to stay high. And I think what can potentially happen is if you over rely on AI, or you're not properly trained, you're not as effective on how to use it to create really good content, then your brand starts to suffer. And I'll give you an example. If you have a social media manager, for example, that you're used to using to craft all the content in your brand voice, and then all of a sudden you start using ChatGPT for all of that content, it's going to look different. It's going to sound different. And that can be a jarring experience for some followers. also so many people now use ChatGPT that we can start to recognize very quickly that it has been used. So I think a risk is that people get a little lazy, they get a little over reliant on the technology, or they don't understand that they have to iterate, they have to work with it, they have to still retain that human touch to everything that goes out the door from their business or brand. I think another sort of risk in doing this is over automation, where if it's being used, for example, for say customer service inquiries, and it doesn't do a very good job, it doesn't effectively answer the questions of the client or provide good support to your client, that you may risk sort of alienating those clients. And we've all been in situations as customers of, other services, let's say like your internet or your phone company, where we've been on a chatbot and the chatbot isn't able to help us. It's not answering the question. It's not addressing our concern. That's a very frustrating experience as a customer, particularly if you've already paid for that item or service. So I think it has to be used with caution, and it has to be used in a way that's going to benefit customers and benefit businesses, not just as a cost-saving solution where we can say, oh, well, we can let go of our staff because now we can just replace them with AI. It's not that simple.
Right. It's finding it interesting. I do a lot of work with Wix and Wix Studio and for some of my clients, and they have a chat box in the help area. And the chat box sometimes goes in circles, and it drives me absolutely nuts. But it's AI. I get it. Finally, I just have to say, you're not helping me. I need to talk to somebody. What do you need to talk about? And then I tell them, and they give me a whole article. I know this does not help me. And then they give me the name where I can talk to somebody. But anyway. So you've worked with a lot of diverse organizations, worked with tourism organizations and real estate companies. And really interesting, you work with some First Nation communities. So can you share any examples on how they're using AI that you've found in these different sectors, or that you can recall?
That's a good question. I mean, let me think on this. I have an Indigenous client who used recently AI to help create a script for their holiday parade. They did a video for their holiday parade in their community, and they used AI to come up with the wording for the video, the sort of like the commentary, and then they broadcast that Santa Claus parade live on their Facebook, so people could join even if they weren't on that particular in location. So that was kind of neat. So let's say you belong to an Indigenous community, but you don't live on the reserve. You can still tune in and you can kind of participate in that. They used AI for the script and the commentary, which I thought was really cute. What else? Some businesses are really just getting started, truly. Yeah. But others are, quite a bit further ahead. There's a company called HeyGen, and some clients are using that to create avatars and talking videos. So let's say you have a new product or service or a new update you want to share. You can use this tool called HeyGen to create a talking video with a person that actually doesn't even exist. Wow. And some people like that because then you don't have to get your staff or you don't have to get your founder on video speaking about the product. It's a more polished approach. Of course, you may be able to tell that it's AI and not a real person, but it's kind of a cool tool that some people are using for video as well.
Now, you're an educator as well. You teach at Humber College and McMaster, it looks like. And so what kind of approaches have you used in teaching AI or incorporating it into the classroom? Interesting enough, I'm doing a research study with Manu, who's one of my partner student. We're into our second year as full-time faculty, and we have to do a research study. So Manu and I are doing a study on satisfaction and engagement levels of AI as a learning tool in the classroom. And so I'm interested to learn how others are. Now I've had Yusuf, who's a PhD, and Really, interesting guy. You may have met him at Humber, but he's been using and changed his whole approach on how he teaches people in the classroom. So what kind of approaches are you using?
So I'm very pro AI, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And
Really?
I think if we're teaching, yes, if we're teaching the next generation of marketing professionals, the reality is that they're going to be using this technology when they're on the job. So I've very much taken the approach where I'm actually encouraging the students to use the technology in their assignments and giving them specific instructions. So don't just say like, write an essay. And if you just give like vague instructions like that, then they're going to use ChatGPT and it's going to be lousy, to be frank. If you say, okay, I want you to choose 2 different AI tools. One should be an LLM. One should be some other type of multimedia tool. I want you to use those 2 tools in conjunction and produce some content for a brand. So it could be maybe a blog posts that have AI generated images. It could be perhaps a podcast interview with a video, and then show notes that are created using an AI tool. It could be some social media content for Instagram or something like that for a real life brand. And this allows people to get that hands-on practice in using different tools, but also using different types of tools. We have large language models, of course, which are your ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, etc. But there's a whole suite of new and exciting AI-powered tools that can do many other things. So, for example, Opus Clip, that's one that I often tell people about.
We use it here on our podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It takes long videos and breaks them up into smaller, short, social media optimized clips, perfect for Instagram and so on. And there's many other multimedia tools out there as well. Midjourney is great for creating static images using AI. So, encouraging them to do that and then changing the way we evaluate success. So success no longer, I think, is just having the best written paper. Right. It's achieving the best results. And then also I often will ask in some of these new assignments, okay, tell me, what are some best practices that you have learned in your experience with these 2 tools? Name, 2 to 3 tips for each tool that you've used on how someone new could use these tools to their advantage in a business environment. So we don't expect that every AI tool that someone uses is going to be stellar either. Part of the learning process for the students is evaluating which tools actually are useful. And really, that's a process of experimentation. That's really what innovation is. It's trying something new, trying something in a new way, evaluating the results, maybe trying something slightly different. So, maybe you try that first prompt, you don't quite get the desired result, you iterate on that prompt again. You iterate on that prompt again and again until finally you get that desired final result. So I would ask students in one of my assignments to actually hand in the prompts that they use along the way. So not just the first prompt and not just the final product, but rather the process that they use, the back and forth conversation, the first pass, the second pass, the third pass, and what they learned from that. So it's a different approach, I think, that's required as we move forward with this type of technology. We need to adapt as well as educators and face the reality that some of the evaluations we've been using may need to be kind of scrapped and sort of reimagined in a new way. And I think that that's okay. It takes a bit of work, but I'm confident that we can get there. And I'm confident that by doing so, we're showcasing our own innovation as educators and truly serving our students. If we're not addressing this huge change, we're expecting them to do the same old, like that's not setting them up for success. That's not teaching them how to adapt. That's not teaching them how to innovate. And these are skills that will be more important than ever once they reach the workforce.
Very, very true. So listen, I want to thank you for joining us today. There's a lot of other questions I could ask you, but we're sort of be running out of time. You're full of knowledge about this subject and you've been very helpful today. So thank you. So how can I guess people learn more about you or what you do and connect with you or contact you?
Thank you. You can find me on LinkedIn, Emily Baillie. You can also find me at compasscontent.ca.
Very good. All right, everybody. This is the What's Your Story podcast. Once again, I'm here today with Emily Baillie. You can check her out on LinkedIn. She's an AI expert. She's had some great information for us today. And I encourage all of you to like, share our podcast. You'll see we're going to be using Opus Clips ourselves to do a couple of short reels as well as shorts on YouTube to promote this podcast. We're going to be asking Angelica to help us promote the podcast because she said she would help us and get the word out. And anyway, so like and share this, the What's Your Story podcast. You have a great day. And thanks once again, Emily.
Thank you very much.